basically, when working from a reference, and we're this far into the reference and we're not getting a read, so we're already working on the edges of the face, but something is still not happening. I like to zoom back out and enlarge my brush again because there's something didn't happen in the early stages that you have to start addressing. And one of the biggest things is not creating that haze that happens with skin. So first and foremost, what I like to do is get a darken layer, and I like to lower my opacity all the way down. If I wish I had more time today, because in my other sessions, my private sessions, I always go for the full paint over, but I'll try my best to today. I might be just looking at this one today. But this is pretty much my fix, go-to fix, no matter what I'm doing. I always darken the canvas a lot using darken layer. If you turn it on normal layer, it'll just paint over everything. What I want to do is just darken what's not already dark. Darken layer doesn't touch what is already darker than the shade you chose here. So anything darker than this, it doesn't darken it. Anything lighter than this, it darkens it to this shade. So that's what darken does. I really recommend it. And I only erase using a soft brush. So this is all soft brush work because when you're working realistically, there's like this beautiful haze that's in the reference. This girl's got the most gorgeous bone structure, so I really want to capture that. And that bone structure is basically saying, speaking a lot of geometry basically, and I want to make sure that I'm treating areas that are high altitude just that way, that I'm I'm painting over everything with darken except anything that is high altitude. And I know this is a bit excessive, but I want to block in like this. You want to. It's not going to read until the very end, so you have to be very, very patient. And if you're not patient, you're not going to get the read you're looking for. And I usually go in between darken and lighten layers. Yeah, I wish she didn't close the eyes. I wish she just went for the whole face. So she has very distinct eye bags. So I'm going to try to get those too. She has a very defined secondary light source that I'm going to try to introduce. And just by doing this whole soft brush business, we're getting that skin texture back. You can't expect to do photo studies and not use soft brush somewhere down the line. You have to use soft brush. Soft brush is very difficult to control if your opacity is too high. So just assume that constantly your soft brush has to come with a low opacity on it constantly. If you're at the far end of the, your late game and you're ready to close up shop and you're polishing edges and you still haven't addressed the fact that the skin needs a lot more polishing itself just by using soft brush, you're going to miss out on a lot of realism that comes with soft brush. The next thing that I do is I just make sure that all these edges are nice and sharp. I'm going to try to paint in the eyes myself, so we could talk a little bit about that as well. Sorry, I won't be looking at comments so much today, but if you do have any severe question, like any extreme severe, I don't know, any questions, any like immediate, there you go, questions, just ask them at the end of the class when I am looking at the comment section. If you notice I'm reading comments, just ask then. Don't ask now or else it'll just be flooded away in chat. Okay, so basically what I'm doing now, just these changes, just all of this has made the bone structure speak a lot more. You're being very particular with your choice of high spots. That alone is just like just the best trick. Using soft brush on both eraser and brush, using darken layer, and just reviewing everything you've painted so far by being very, very picky with your highlights. The only areas that access the light, that point up to the light, that are tilted up towards the light source, are the ones that get all this light on it. The lips are asymmetrical, so I'm going to address that as well in Liquify. And I'm taking a look at this navigator here, and I'm trying my best to capture exactly what I'm seeing. So I'm laying down a bunch of light and a new layer, and it's always this technique. It's always this technique of mine. I lay down the paint and then I erase away. But the point is that we're doing that because we're getting a grain of soft brush out of all of that editing. And that, in turn, starts reflecting the skin texture. Shadow of the upper lip on the lower lip. the cast shadow over here as well. I'm going to go back into my darkened layer and just grab some of the dark spot shade and just throw it down there. And the side of the nose shouldn't be that dark, since it is very, very geometric, very, very sculpted nose. I like to call them muscular noses. Alright, so that's pretty much something that I'm always doing if I feel like my values aren't strong enough. But it's all about the soft brush at this point, and this really is where the best way to use a soft brush is in your polishing stage. It's always good to block in as much as possible early on, but when it comes down to the late game kind of stuff, you have to start using soft brush if you want that realism. And everybody wants just a touch of realism, right? Not everyone. I mean, if you build your whole portfolio on painterly textures and excessive grain and brush streaking, then you will only have that as your main. It'll only reflect that as your main technique, and that's not very good. So I'm just realigning symmetries. Sorry, and I'm taking a look at the actual shadows, the actual temperature of all these shadows. Okay, and I keep doing the exact same thing. I get a whole new layer, lighten, and then just lighten away. But I'm lightening away radially. So I'm not sure if you guys know what radial is, but we're building up the highlights as if it's a sand pile. And this whole shadow area here in the eye socket, I also need to address that this whole area is dark. This whole area, even the whites of her eyes are gray. And this is a given, always grayscale your reference. If you want to capture the exact values, you always have to grayscale it. And her face is a little bit more masculine than hers. That's because the neck, the length of the nose is a little bit longer, giving off that masculine look. So I'm just going to try to make it look like that. Okay, raise the density. And then she doesn't have anything happening in her eyebrows. Her eyebrows are pretty standard. No expression, not much expression, not much emotion. It's just neutral for the sake of the portrait. I mean, I'm going to try to do the eyes if I can't. And it's mostly about the bone structure, what the bone structure is speaking. And you have to make sure that when you bring in, like for instance, her chin is very, very large-ish in the photograph. It can, if you took away a lot of this, you can almost see a male in her if you just dressed her up as a male. This could be a male if it wasn't for the mascara and for the long hair. Probably for the fuller lips or the lack of brow bone. Very, very androgynous kind of face. But taking a look at the before and after, just from these basic polishing techniques, you have a little bit more bone structure. And I'm not looking at this, I'm looking at this. If I'm getting the read here, I know I have a read here. I don't have to worry because these changes are made specifically for the read from a distance. Once you have this read and it's like a big green check mark, yes, way to go, and then you can start detailing. And believe it or not, detailing has a lot to do with smudging. So I usually put a scatter brush on Photoshop's smudge tool. And the reason why I encourage a lot of students to do this is because if you guys don't do this, you're invited to use more paint. And once you set up a good plate, why do you have to bring in more paint? All you have to do is just rearrange the paint a little bit. And this is the equivalent of working traditionally when you bring in, your smudging tool or you use your hands to smudge away. So I invite you to start using smudge tool just a little bit more on a scatter brush of your choice. It's any brush with scatter setting turned on Photoshop. And it's mostly to do with the fact that, if we miss out on this, then we will bring in a lot of new paint because we think we need more contrast. But the detailing, the actual characterization, like the, discerning the fact that this texture is different from this one, you have to do that with skin. You have to blend in order to add to the detail. So right now I'm just trying to quickly line in the basic shape of one eye at least. I wish you didn't paint the hair in, because now I have to paint it away. Try to keep props like that, all that hair stuff, for later in a new layer. Not until you get a hold of all your detail. You throw that hair in there, it'll be the hardest thing for you to paint over it. I'm going to paint in the shadow there. What I do in order to maximize realism is I kind of just eyeball the exact shape of her eyeball using a hard round. I think it's this size. This size will do. A hard round brush helps you, one, work as a measuring tool. So now that I place this there, I know that my version of her eye, the one I painted, was a little too high. And this is just using soft brush on now I'm using soft brush on high opacity. So it's just going to work like any other hard brush. And then just quickly blocking in all the major highlights. If I go too light, I can always go back. But it's mostly that I'm trying to capture the main gradients at this point. My brush stays large, and it has to stay large in order for this to work. The top of her brow gets a little bit of light, and it climbs radially. Just like that, so dark to light. It's never just a plain gradient, it's like a sand pile. The highlights climb along that sand pile. And in a little, I'm going to be just using my hard edge brush, so something like just a rectangular brush of any kind. And I'm going to start bringing in detail again. But I'm going to try to do it in such a way where I'm not bringing any more paint. I've already addressed how much paint I need. And that's your downfall, is that you think you need more paint, you think you need more contrast, and you haven't given any of your edges a chance. And when you don't do that, when you don't just take some time just to see if there's a possible edge that could happen that might give you the contrast you need, then you end up leaning on more contrast and you work very far from the reference. You don't end up capturing anything to do with the reference, and the whole study in itself fails. What you were supposed to do is record this into your mind so you can call on it later for your visual library. That's the point of working with references. It also gives you a chance to experiment with with organic patterns instead of drawing the same old Barbie doll face. So I'm just drawing some basic lines to guide me around. Her eyelids go all the way over. Right, and before I get into the eyes some more, I've basically captured all I want to capture for now. My brush is very large, I'm not zoomed in, I can't do any more work. So what can I still do out here, zoomed out this far? I can get my hard edge brush, which is one of these, and then I make a new layer with lighten again. So what do I want to do? Do I want to do lighten or darken? It's either or, it really doesn't matter. And actually I'm going to get soft brush on lighten and then just throw a bunch of highlight over here. I'm just going to make the highlight bleed all the way up. But I know I can see the edge, so don't worry, I can see this edge. I'm going to get the eraser tool on the blocking brush and then erase away. And as I erase, again, you erase to capture the grain of the brush, or you use the brush to capture the grain of the brush. So right now, as I erase, I'm leaving behind a really, really strong, sorry, my back, really, really strong edge. And it's okay if it starts super sharp. You can always smudge it away without bringing in any new paint or excessively sculpting something that doesn't need sculpting. And again, in a new layer, getting that brush, soft brush, and slowly climbing as if a sand pile, the bubble of the, and this time I can zoom in, it's a bit more detailed, the bubble of the eye bag. So watch closely. First brush stroke, and I only need 2 because I'm using efficient painting methods. 2 brush strokes, or 2.5 I guess, because I kind of finished the other one. And then I erase away. Zoom out, and she has a little bit of a bubble now. in her eye. And I'm going to keep doing this over and over and over again, blending and reblending and redetailing, and that's pretty much what your rendering stage should look like. And your brush should typically shrink as this process happens. I'm going to blend away at the top of that. Just always blending. It's soft brush combined with blending that gives you that real polished, realistic finish to the eyebrow, to the face. Sorry, the nose. Let's talk about eyebrows. Then the eyebrows again start very, very soft, and then we diffuse where we have to. There's a big patch of light, and when you squint your eyes, you can really catch all of these major areas. What I do is using a darken layer, I darken everything one more time. I darken brush mode, sorry. Opacity is too low. And then a lighten layer to lighten everything one more time. Because I don't want to use too much dark, too much light too soon. I'm still working on the plate while using a soft brush, and I still haven't used as much contrast as I need. Being very, very careful, slowly building this up. It's a very slow process. But it's just about capturing the perfect geometry, the light on geometry map, that perfect light map on the face. Okay, so I'm just looking at the reference, making sure I'm not overdoing anything. The top of her lip, get some more light around the jaw. Around the cheekbone. I'm going to blend away the other eye completely. Right, the side of the brow. And again, we're doing this radially, slowly climbing towards the highest point. And you've kind of outlined the eyebrows for some reason, which is not a good idea. Let the eyebrows, introduce the eyebrows as a haze. A kind of just a shadow, and then slowly start to add individual hairs as you need them. Almost always, we're always adding too much detail too soon. We need to start with low detail and slowly build up the resolution as we go. If we do the opposite of that, then we really start to paint like a noob. I really don't know how to say it other. It's painting like a noob is trying to do too much detail all at once. And getting flustered, and you can see the anxiety there. And while the noob, this proverbial noob, I don't know what the word is to describe this particular noob in our minds right now. Always rushing, always stressed out, probably sweating. Oh no, what am I gonna do? It doesn't look good. And oh my god, if someone passes by my computer and they don't see a good face, I have to make sure that I'm using enough contrast and lights and lines so that the person who passes by my computer can see that I'm actually, drawing a face and not a blob. But it's okay if the person passes by your computer and all they see is a blob. You're sculpting. You're working from large to small. If they don't see a face yet, fuck them. Who cares if they're going to judge and say, hey, that looks like a blob. If you've got that one annoying sibling that always hovers over your work like I did. Oh, what is that? What is that? That's like probably the worst thing ever, is that when you're painting something, you're not even done. You're 6 seconds into the painting, and they're already asking you, what is that? That's fuck you, that's what it is. And you just continue painting and tell them to bugger off. But, yeah, you just gotta be patient. If you don't get a read right away, it's for a reason. We haven't used the read tools. The read tools are contrast and shrinking your brush and super, super sharp edges. Those are the 3 ways to really detail something. So if they're not seeing it, who cares? You know where this is going. You know how you're building this. So for me right now, I'm slowly adding in every single value. I'm not sparing anything. Everything has to be pass through my filter of zooming out and looking back at the reference. If I don't do that, I will not get what I need. I will not get the read that I want. This whole patch under her brow, this triangular shape right here, it needs to be darker. Alright, because we really want to get that exact anatomy of the light. Let's say what true. What you drawn? You stupid. That ain't no face. Float like a butterfly, paint like a noob. Redo one of your old drawings with this new advice and see if there are any changes. Yeah. So, what I'm doing now is I'm just doing this exactly, trying to make sure that I capture that inner shadow where the side of the nose gets the most steep. And I don't care if there's no detail on the eyes. I don't care if I paint away some of those stupid lines I started with. None of them are important. None of them mean a thing to the painting right now. All that really does count is all of this blocking in, this early kind of like planes work, like working on the planes of the face. And she's got actually quite a big eye bag that goes all the way down to nearly half her nose. So I'm going to try to redo that whole thing and get her exact likeness. Try to get likeness. You know, as much as you can, try to capture likeness. It really does help you later on. If you haven't practiced your likeness capturing skills, and you haven't perfected how you measure and how you eyeball and how you zoom out, and one day you're going to come across this really awesome looking reference and you just want to capture that exact likeness, those exact kinds of lips, that exact eyes, set of eyes, and you won't be able to because you haven't been practicing likeness. You've used the excuse of, oh, I'll just do my thing with it. One of these days, a good reference is going to make an honest artist out of you. You guys have to remember that. It's really important to add likeness to your artillery, to your arsenal. Is that the word? Artillery? I don't fucking know. So now I'm going to deal with detail. I'm looking for areas that don't blend together. So this whole 3/4 view isn't blending together. This second half of the face is hiding behind the nose. Very, very sorry that I sound stuffy, like indefinitely, and my voice is starting to go, and I'm just so sorry. Alright, so this light carries all the way up into the forehead, but not so much. Just radially, slowly lifting that upward. But we still have that C shape, this C shape right here. And a lot of my students in private practice, I'm always assigning references for them because it is the best diagnostic for me as the teacher to be able to know exactly where they're suffering, where they have their main issues. And when I see that they have issues capturing geometry, I mean, we're spending a lot of time on geometry for the next like 7 sessions or however long we've booked, and I'm not gonna give. We're gonna be working on references forever. Because there's always going to be some kind of reference homework. Yeah, you're going to be able to paint your own face and learn how to paint stuff from your visual library, but there's almost always a connection back to how they occur with a reference. Either it's a reference for the geometry or the reference for the anatomy or anything. So now I'm going to retry that bubble that I had before. Just like that. Don't have that much time on me, but I do want to show you guys, take this at least 1 or 2 more levels of brightness. So it's probably bothering a lot of you, probably like sitting on fire trying to deal with the fact that there's 0 contrast here. And that's okay, that's understandable. You're not supposed to have contrast at this stage. But try to be patient, especially, while watching it is a different thing, but when you do it yourself, you're going to have even less patience. So wait it out. You're gonna get all the contrast you want, all the contrast in the world, but you have to use it in the right spots. And some contrast happens without going in there and choosing a brighter or darker shade. Some of it happens because you've sharpened an edge, and that's what I'm doing right now. I'm looking for these slight edges that don't blend together. And that's really what's gonna do it. So right along here. There was that unblended edge. If it's messy, it's fine. I can always smudge it away by hand. And the reason why it's so good to work without contrast too early, to smudge as much as possible, it leaves you really, really close to the traditional method. you're not always at a loss, you're not always looking for Control Z next time you're painting with Conte or charcoal. You're going to be able to transfer all of this, all of these skills back over into traditional. I hate that word. Alright, so it's okay. I know where the eyeball is. It's okay if I'm painting over it. I want the exact temperature of the eyeball, of the white of the eye. It's okay. I know where the pupil is. I can always redo it and zoom back out. I'm trying to capture that secondary light source up here as well in the eye. And then what I'm going to do next, now I bring in the contrast that I need, but I'm going to start with black first, and only where it's needed, so dark spots. So now you can have fun. Now you can just take it easy, take a breather. You've set up a really great plate. You've captured, you've pretty much caught all of the major darks and lights, and now you can reward yourself with some detail fun. Yeah, that's probably too big. Holy shit. Bring that down. Okay, what I usually do is this exactly. I use a stencil either in traditional or in digital. I don't take chances with the circular accuracy of the pupils that I draw. They have to be circular. I'm a perfectionist. I want to know that what I'm drawing here isn't lacking in functionality and in believability. Sometimes I freestyle my own kind of like pattern or my own visual library for what happens in a pupil and an iris. But sometimes I look to the reference to figure it out for me too. Should be just a little bit higher where I had it. See, I should have zoomed out there, but I didn't because I'm lazy. Alright, and then I smudge away. Of course, the eye isn't perfectly robotically perfect an edge, so it has a lot of water under it. It is a smudgy thing. We are imperfect creatures. We're not completely rounded on all the sides. Then I grab that, and it's a very dark eye. Yeah, she has colored eyes, but their reading is dark, at least on this eye here. There's a lot of business in front of it. And I'm going to go one step darker again. This is the exact method. Just like we're careful with how light we go, our step down is also very, very careful. We're always building plates and preparing ourselves for the next step. You never go too dark too soon, you never go too light too soon. Because when you go black... I couldn't help it, I'm sorry. You guys can go ahead and finish that for me. Oops. Alright, so I'm going to do the lashes. So what I'm doing now is bringing in dark spots that have to do with pigmentation. Eyelashes or pigmentation. All this is pigmentation here, this makeup that she has on. Zoom back out, make sure I'm doing a decent job. Oops. But when we work with a soft brush with this level of control, we will be rewarded. It is a very good brush to use if you're working for working towards a more realistic finish for your photo studies. And even now we're getting all this read and we haven't even touched a brightness or any kind of bright shade. It's to please, it's to stop. Why does working zoomed out make a difference? It makes all the difference, but why it does is because when you zoom out, you can see exactly what your brush is doing to the greater plate of geometry in the face. So if you don't have a vocabulary right now for what geometry is and where geometry is in the face, you won't understand my answer. So if you have an appreciation for what the geometry is of the face, see, I made a bunch of just lines just now and I completely fucked it all up. I control-D'd everything I did while zoomed out. Because it just doesn't work. It doesn't work, man. When you zoom in and you try to make big, large strokes, it's like trying to snipe someone while you're like 2 feet away from them. It's like, why are you even using a sniper rifle? At that point, just go for, you know, if you really want an effective and a successful assassination of your enemy. You have to just, if you're using or you're limited to a sniper rifle, please zoom out. Take a distance back so that your aim is more effective. And I don't know. I have no idea why I'm using this metaphor. It just doesn't make sense for you to cover so much space if you aren't zoomed out to address it. Just take a bird's eye view. Fly outside of all of this to capture what you need. Another thing that I do to capture detail, I hope I have enough time to do this, is I throw in a bunch of dark, and then I get my eraser tool, the edge one, the hard edge brush, and I erase away, but I leave the gradient that I had out there. And the reason why I do that is it gives me the crease, but it also gives me the gradient behind it. And as you can see, I'm bringing in contrast. I'm shrinking my brush to create edges only, but I'm not shrinking my brush to paint in little hairs. You see how much I hate shrinking my brush? And it's good. It's a good hate. You want that hate. Live off that hate. Let it, like, what is this? Like, what's that term? Feel, I don't know what it is. It's like the dark side. Accept the dark side, Feel the hate for that small brush. Feel the hate for those little hairs that you might draw. Because they're out for only one thing, and that's to sabotage your painting. You only use them at the end when the plate is good, when the details are ready, like edges and contrast. Alright, so this is why I didn't want to paint the eyes, because then I have to paint them from scratch, and I'm so picky. Alright, nearly done with them. Okay, so I'm just going to throw a little bit of light into the eye, and again I'm doing this late, not doing this right away. And then what comes next, of course, are the super duper awesome highlights that that have been delayed for a very, very good reason. It's because when they come in, they're like the cavalry. They're like your backup soldiers. You only bring them in when you really, really don't have any more form. You have no more edges to fuck around with. You have no more grayscales to use. You need some brightness. You need some extreme work. And I'm not going to do this till actually, yeah, I can just go straight in. Alright, here goes nothing. We're bringing in the highlight. We know we're squinting our eyes. We know the nose is one of the brightest areas, so I'm just going to just smack a bunch of it in there. Just toss that in there. Toss a little bit there. And then it's messy, and it's fine, because I'm going to erase away and then rebuild. But I'm going to leave everywhere that isn't no highlights existed and under the brow bone. She's got very strong brows. I'm not going to paint anything in there. And guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to erase it away. And then rebuild it, and erase it, and rebuild it, until I know for sure I'm using only what I need when I need it. So only the top of the nose got that extra bit of highlight. Only that, nothing else. Only the top of the cheek, the very, very top. Sometimes I reduplicate this layer just so that I can erase again. Alright, so duplicate it again. It's going to be unusually bright, that's fine. I get to erase again. I need to zoom out some more so I know I'm doing this right. So I'm very, very restrained with time, so I can't really go in and try to capture the other eye as well. I wish I could. Maybe we could talk a little bit more about likeness and stuff. But bringing this in only when you need it, it makes the biggest difference. You enter this next level of realism in your work, you're just like, oh man, this patience thing really does wear off. Confucius knew what he was talking about. So did Buddha and Muhammad and Jesus. Oh yeah, patience is a good thing. Oh yeah. Alright, so have some patience with your contrast. Please don't go in too soon. Do not ever, ever put small, tiny details ahead of your contrast. It's just mistake number one. Very, very linked to line dependency. You get reads when you have lines, and that's why, we here at Istebrak Istebrak Teaching Corp have decided that line dependency is the weakest and the biggest issue, like the weakest thing that you could have. Like the weakest artists have it, and it is the biggest epidemic, and we are doing our best to resolve this problem. Alright, just fixing up some more edges over here. Alright, and see this area here isn't as sharp as I made it, and I'm just going to blur that out. God, my jokes suck. I don't even know why. Don't humor me. Don't fucking humor me. Don't laugh. If they suck, don't laugh. Because then you're just showing me that you're nothing but a brown noser, so don't fucking laugh at my jokes. Alright, if they suck, because I don't know. You think I don't know? You think I don't have self-awareness? I know. I know they suck. Patience is hard, but it's a learning curve. Yes, it is. There's a great deal of what you don't know that's inside your lack of patience, and it's not to do with the fact that you don't know how to do this or you didn't pay attention in class. It's just simply you didn't have patience enough just to hold out long enough until you have that read. And even now, this is still really, really early preliminary stuff. All the stuff we're doing is preliminary. Her lips have this really, really like defined brightness around them. She's got very, very high corners that are a little bit more feminine than what we have here. Ours are a little low. Okay, I'm just gonna go in there and liquefy that. Oops. Okay, so this is what your photo referencing should be like. It should be zoomed out, very careful. You spend most of your time, all of your time, on the plate, the main geometry, the large blocking in aspect of everything. And you never, ever, ever zoom in before you have a good plate. Alright? So what I'm doing now is I'm just zooming in so I can get that shadow underneath her mouth. Son of a bitch. Alright, it's really low res. Sorry about that. I'm just going to grab one of this. Don't have time to go in. And I'm just going to throw that black in there just like we have. Her mouth is slightly open. Ever so slightly. And I'm just going to smudge away. Always smudging because it's skin. It's not a robot. And I'm not going for painterly. I want to learn how to render a face. So blending is a big part of that. And just like with the eyes, we have to bring in dark spots now. And when we bring in dark spots, we're doing it radially. So block number 1, block number 2 until our brush shrinks. And then we blend away. Always blending away, always assuming that we haven't used as much of our shadows as possible. I erased away, and I blended away, and I'm rebuilding the dark spots again. It's crazy how you get so much read without even bringing all your contrast. So just imagine all those times where you guys could have waited just a little bit longer before bringing in your highlight. Take a break, take a breather, walk away from your computer, and come back when you're, just to reassess the fact that did you really use as much light, or did you spend enough time before using too much light? Like, did you take enough of a break? Because if you stay there on your computer and you don't take a break, you will think that you need light now. Because you don't know any better yet. The more time you take with it, the more you'll see that you really do have an hour or two left before you can bring in highlights. Even now I haven't brought in as much highlights as I need. Right, and her background is just a little bit lighter, so her light environment is much lighter than ours. UH. It's just a little bit brighter. We need an explanation for why we have all this highlight. Then I'm going to bring in Dodge Tool just to hurry the class up a little bit on midtones. Dodge Tool on midtones, really, really low exposure. And I'm just going to build up my brightest brights. Whoops, cancel. Radially. So her nose is a cylinder pretty much. And I'm just exaggerating. I'm going further than the painting. Than the photograph, sorry. But I'm doing it while the photograph is guiding me, so I'm still thinking about where these high points really are. We've just got a lot of shadow under her eye, like a lot under her eyebrow. It's just really, really dark in there. On this other side too. And still no detail on the eyebrows, no eyelashes, nothing. This entire time, the only reason why we've gone this far and we've rendered this much is because we've avoided detail entirely. And this is not optional, alright? You don't just get to say, hey, oh yeah, well this is one way to do it, I'm going to do it my own way. No, this is the only way because this way is linked to the way it occurs naturally. We don't see the detail before if someone's zoomed out, away from you, someone's far away from you, some leagues away, you don't see their eyelashes before you see the shadow of the face, the core shadow of the face. Do you see the eyelashes before? No. Do you see the hair brows or the brows or the hair before you see their nose light? No. And that's why you paint those things in first. Those are the things we see first. That is what should carry the painting. The physics, the light environment should carry the painting. Not every single individual hair that you draw, and you assume that there's patience, it takes patience to draw every single individual hair. No, it doesn't. It's impatience that leads you to draw every single individual hair. Not the other way around. Alright, so I'm just finishing all this up. Just take it from me, I've made these mistakes before. There's no reason why you should waste your next study on excessive detail and excessive contrast. You only have so much time in the day. Some of you work, some of you have school, and you just want to have a nice, successful study. And I'm telling you, this is how we do it. We slowly, gradually build up the lightest lights. Very, very careful. And I'll show you the before and after, which will be quite a transformation. But it's not something that happened with, it happened under your supervision. You guys saw me change all of this with your, while you watched. You saw every single choice I made. I explained every single choice I made. So right now I'm just looking at this little shadow in her cheek. Her cheek is indented inward. And this is what it means, some of you are going to go ahead and try to make this a masterpiece before jumping on to your next, next study. And that's just all the bad news right there. You're supposed to treat these as individual, separated moments of like scientific exploration. All right, just think of yourselves as explorers of the unknown, and you have your little trek hats, and you have your good boots, climbing boots, and you've got your little recording notepad, and you're recording all the beautiful fauna and flora that you're seeing, and then you're just an explorer. You're what's his name, and that other guy. This is not you writing your thesis. All right, a masterpiece is a thesis. You're going in there to show all that you know, all that you've discovered thus far. You bring in your hypothesis, and then you just explain why you've come this far. Right, but this is not what these studies are. These studies are just tiny little fragments of your learning process. Please don't try to turn this into a warrior lady and give her a sword and give her a pin and long, beautiful, flowing hair and put a dragon behind her. Alright, please, for the love of God, don't do that. Alright, because I did that and it was bad. It slowed me down. I didn't jump into the next study as soon as I could. If you want to get this kind of read in your work, you gotta just slow it down. Stop with the masterpieces. Give your studies a chance. For the love of Pete. I haven't looked at the comments. I'm going to look at them in a second, so if you have any questions that I haven't looked at yet, please go ahead and ask now. But I'll show you the before and after. There's only so much I can do in the time that we have. I have to leave soon. But I will be with you next week, or this week, Thursday. We will do another one of these, and you will see that it's all worth it. If you're just a little bit patient, you'll get the exact kind of read. And all the results that we have today, or the results that we've had before in other paint overs, you guys have watched every single step of the way. And if you just take just a moment just to write notes, try to memorize it, try to look at it a bigger picture, download the video of the paint over, put it in a video editing software. You don't even have to render the video. You just have to watch the fast-paced way it changed, and then that'll give you another look or outlook into how I change all of this stuff and how it really does work. It's scary bringing in a darken brush and just darkening the crap out of your study that you've been working on for the last 4 hours or God knows how long. It's scary. It's also scary blending away all the tiny little hairs that you drew. But it means the world to your painting, and you have to try to do it. You have to try to learn how to do it. If you become too dependent on excessive detailing, you will never reach the point that you want to reach with your painting. So I'm just bringing in some more detail, but really at this point I'm just having too much fun with that. I'm gonna be honest, I'm just having a lot of fun right now. Alright, so I'll finish up, I'll wrap it up. Okay, so this whole area is dark except the outside. I'm gonna have to get a new layer for that. So yes, I will look over in the comments in just a second. I'm so sorry I didn't look yet. But write them now. Write your questions now. And write Istebrak on them because it'll highlight it for me and then I'll be able to catch your question. So say Ista and then your question. Alright? That way I'll be able to see it. Because other people are having conversations, so hopefully not. And then again, I'm bringing my dodge tool. This time on highlights, and I'm just really just going to go in there only where the super, super high spots, the super bright areas that are kind of visible in here. But the photograph's also been edited. And I'm just going to throw those in there. We're so used to throwing all the highlights on the eyes, but this girl's eyes are just very, very dark. New layer. And then sharpen that. So when you guys study and you're using this, you're going for it. You're going for the full detail, for the full render. And you guys haven't touched soft brush yet and haven't blended yet, there's something wrong. Alright, so please, 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 for the love of Pete, give your soft brush a chance. You'll thank yourself for it. Select inverse, and I'm just going to darken using burn tool on midtones, low opacity. Just darken the outsides ever so slightly because they move into the shadow of the light environment. And then now this read is happening from a distance. Okay, so let's take a look at the before and after. You guys were here, you watched every step of the way. The change is going to be something big, but it's only because we looked at the bone structure first. So imagine there's like 3 more hours of rendering left for this face, but we took care of the most stuff early on, working really, really fast to capture the plates, the main geometry, the upward facing cubes. I've explained all of this before. Istebrak, what are the most important line shapes to get down for accuracy when doing a study from reference? The most important line to get down is the symmetry line erastification or sadzification. If you don't get that symmetry line down in your study, you will not be able to eyeball the rest of the eyes. Preferably you want to eyeball all the other symmetry because it's not supposed to be perfect. Remember, I do tell you guys you're allowed to trace just the general location of the inner and outer corners of the eyeballs, where the eyebrows are, where the nostrils are, just so that you can have all those measurements there and you can just go dive in and start rendering. Sometimes you can eyeball it like I did. You will get it a little bit off. She looks like she's like 10 years older than her, only because I've been eyeballing this whole time and I'm under a lot of time constraints, but I recommend that you don't skip any of the measuring tools. No, none of the lines that you really need are all the lines that you really need. You're gonna feel like you need them. You're gonna be like, I have no way of knowing where the other eye is. I'm literally just stabbing in the dark over here. You have to have this line of symmetry. It tells you where how close this eye is to the line, how close the other eye is to the line. You need the horizontal line, the nose line, the mouth line, just so you can see them. I don't draw them today because I still see them in my brain. I've used them so many times, I see them everywhere now. But some of you haven't used them enough, so you don't see them, you don't project them. I also have a photographic memory, so that might also help me. It's the no question. I just wanted to know. Okay, cool. All right, rectangular tool. What is the function exactly? Rectangular tool? What is the function? And can we just jump into the 14-day challenges? I just begin to paint, so I'm not that skilled yet. Yes, you can jump right in. You can use some referencing, but typically the 14-day challenge is a way to round off all your skills and just to really try your best for 14 days straight, figure out exactly what kind of where your issues are, mostly to do with your grayscale, so you're using grayscale for the entire days. And it's usually meant for those who have enough studies behind them. If you're going into the 14-day challenge and you have only 2 other attempts at a face, it might be a little troublesome for you to get past the basics. So I recommend at least a topical knowledge of the basics before jumping into the 14-day challenge, because it is a daily drawing of a face and trying to perfect it and push towards realism, very similar to this quality. If you don't have any knowledge of measuring, let's say today we talked a lot about measuring. If you haven't tried measuring yet, how are you supposed to do a 14-day challenge? Which requires a lot of knowledge on symmetry. You also choose one angle of the face, so face head on instead of three-quarter. Preferably should be your first challenge. Sorry, I'm losing my voice. And you should go for a straight face first, so you can measure and perfect your symmetry and knowledge of symmetry. Istebrak, how would you advise? Would you advise to practice drawing every day using your computer, or using the traditional way, or both in parallel? I, for a long time, took the biggest break from traditional, but I still improved. It has nothing to do with your media and everything to do with the knowledge. So if you're not going in and memorizing and writing down notes of what the fundamentals are, oh, light does this in this kind of situation, or trying some studies, you're not going to improve. It doesn't matter how you draw. It doesn't matter what you're using to draw. You can use some pudding and a plate. You can try to draw with your food. You can play with your food at dinner and try to draw, just as long as you're trying to think about this specific fundamental in this specific light situation, or in this specific three-dimensional way, or whatever it is, whatever the jargon is in this discourse community. Mr. Brack, do you live off YouTube, your classes, etc. as well? How did you come up with even doing this? I don't live off YouTube, no. I work on the side. I teach on the side. That's my main job. And I used to freelance a lot, which I don't have time for anymore. How did I come up with doing this? I like teaching. I've always taught. I taught back in my university years. I taught and tutored a lot in high school. I've always enjoyed tutoring and teaching. It was my job right out of high school as well. I taught at a private school. I taught it's very weird, but I taught English literature. I know it's so weird for me, just an artist and you're teaching English lit, but yeah, I did a lot of teaching. I've always known that I've enjoyed teaching. How do I avoid zooming in too much while drawing? It's my biggest weakness. Um, you have to fight it. If you feel like zooming in the first 1 hour, you know you're doing something wrong. If you're getting this kind of read and you're zooming in and you still haven't captured where the main highlights are, you're doing something wrong. You have to make sure that you're zooming out. It's just it's like a basic rule you can't break. It's not when I feel like zooming in, should I zoom in? No, you're gonna feel like zooming in, so that can't be your gauge. You have to assume that you're not allowed to zoom in until you've captured all the geometry. All right. So does flipping your canvas help see all the mistakes in your image? Yes, it does. It's one way to really, really see all the mistakes. Absolutely. Please flip your canvas as much as possible. I can flip the canvas now and find a lot of mistakes in what I haven't seen. But again, after doing it for so many times, I kind of do it in my head already. But some of you haven't flipped enough, haven't measured enough, haven't zoomed out enough for you to know that you're doing it enough or not. So you have to always assume you're not there yet. And always push yourself. I still paint in grayscale. I'm here teaching you guys, and I'm somewhat of an authority in this subject. But I still zoom out. I still measure. I still grayscale. So if at my level I'm still doing this, you guys, if you are being taught by me, you know that you have to continue doing it as well. There's no excuse. A lot of the professionals, I'm not saying that I am a canon of some sort or a professional in any way, but a lot of professionals do it as well. So there's no excuse to never do it. But that's it for today. Thank you all for coming. I hope you guys learned something from today's class. I will see you guys on Thursday. Have a great day. Bye bye.